The Detroit Lions will be a lot better than what a lot of people think. Let me explain. I want to give a special shout out to the sponsor of this video, Manscaped. So Manscaped recently just launched their Lawnmower 4.0. And listen, if you are a guy who does a lot of shaving underneath, the Lawnmower 4.0 is the perfect tool for you because listen, my first time shaving a couple of months ago went terrible. I had a bunch of scrapes, I had a bunch of bruises, and I also had patches because I didn't finish the job. So when Manscaped sent me the Lawnmower 4.0, I used it, and I was a little bit scared, okay? Because I was like, I ain't trying to give myself patches and give myself injuries like I did last time, my first time shaving. But when I used the Lawnmower 4.0, let me tell you guys something. It was a easy process. I had no scrapes, no bruises. It was no pain. Listen, if you're a guy who does a lot of shaving underneath, make sure that you guys go ahead and cop the Lawnmower 4.0 using my promo code JT for 20% off plus free shipping off your Manscaped purchase. Once again, make sure that you guys use promo code JT for 20% off your purchase plus free shipping. Your balls will thank you. There are a good majority of people out there who believe that the Detroit Lions will be the worst team in the NFL this upcoming season and that the Lions will have the #1 overall pick in next year's 2022 NFL Draft. Let me start off by saying this. I strongly doubt that the Detroit Lions will have the #1 overall pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. My first reason for this is because they're not going to be the worst team in the NFL. The worst team in the NFL is most likely going to be the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans don't have anything. They don't have an offensive line. They have a weak group of wide receivers. They have no defensive line, no linebackers, no cornerbacks. The only thing the Houston Texans have good on their team right now is safety Justin Reed. That's about it. There's no way you can make me believe that the Detroit Lions have a worse roster than what the Houston Texans currently have right now. Now, you also got to look at how good the Detroit Lions are in the trenches. You guys know what I'm about to say. It's starting to sound cliche to this point, but it's the God honest truth. If you can't win up front, you're not going to win a lot of games. Guess what? The Detroit Lions have a top 10 offensive line, and they have a top 15 defensive line. They're really good in the trenches. If you're really good up front, there's no way you're going to end up having one of the worst records in the NFL. There's no way you're possibly going to end up being the worst team in the NFL, no matter who you have at quarterback, no matter how bad you think the Detroit Lions will be. One thing that you have to agree with is the fact that this offensive line is amongst one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. They also have a defense that, yeah, they may have questions at linebacker. You may have questions about their secondary, but they can get after the quarterback. So the Detroit Lions are a really good team as of right now in the trenches. And the fact that they're so good in the trenches, they're going to end up being able to compete with pretty much any team on any given Sunday. I expect the Detroit Lions to be a really good and competitive football team this year. I think they can win anywhere from 6 to 8 games this year. Now, I'm not saying they're going to make it to the playoffs. I'm not saying that. But I do believe that with how good this team is up front, that they're going to give a lot of teams problems. And they're going to pull off a lot of big upsets. Like, I'm so tired of this narrative that people just want to forget the offensive line. Nobody pays attention to what goes on in the trenches. The only time people pay attention to the offensive line is if the offensive line is bad. The only time people really pay attention to what's happening on the defensive line is if a guy is getting a lot of sacks and whatnot. You see, there's a lot of you guys who have this new age football mentality, and it just pees me off because a lot of you guys just think that for you to be a Super Bowl caliber football team or for you to be a good football team, you have to have all these great wide receivers. You got to have a great quarterback. You got to have a great running back. You got to have all these great corners. Like, a lot of you guys just pay attention to skill position players. And I'm here to tell you that the offensive line and the defensive line equals more wins than that great receiver you guys want. Our offensive tackle is equal to more wins than a wide receiver. The Detroit Lions had arguably the greatest wide receiver of all time in Calvin Johnson, along with Matthew Stafford, and they never really did anything with those two guys. You want to know why? Because they didn't have a good offensive line, and they couldn't run the football. Did you guys watch the Super Bowl? Kansas City had a good group of halfbacks. They were loaded at wide receiver, and yet you wonder why they lost to Tampa Bay? Oh, wow. They couldn't win up front. Their offensive line got dominated. They got train wrecked. So you want to know what Kansas City did after their Super Bowl loss? Well, they have a couple of players that reworked their contract. They threw up more salary cap, and they end up signing offensive guard Joe Thuney. They trade for right tackle, now left tackle Orlando Brown, and they spend a lot of money in the offseason in free agency improving their offensive line. You want to know why? Because if you can't win up front, you're not going to win anything. That's the big reason why Kansas City has invested so much in improving their offensive line. Like, you guys think that the Detroit Lions are going to be the worst team in the NFL, have one of the worst records in the NFL because they don't have a great group of receivers. If you have a great offensive line like Detroit has, you're going to give the wide receivers more time to not only get open, but more time to create separation. You're also going to give the quarterback more time to allow those wide receivers to get open. The Detroit Lions are also going to have a one game with Swift back there in the backfield. Like, this Lions offense probably will be the best offense they've had since Matthew Stafford threw for 5,000 yards, because they have the best offensive line that they've had, and I don't know when. This offensive line is a top 10 unit. I'm so tired of people focusing about the wide receivers. You guys act like they don't have no weapons in the pass game. Are you forgetting that TJ Hawkinson was a Pro Bowler last year? Are you forgetting that TJ Hawkinson is not only one of the best tight ends in the NFC, but one of the best tight ends in the NFL? You guys make it seem like Detroit doesn't have jack nothing when it comes to the pass game. You guys act like Jared Goff is going to be throwing to nobodies. He's throwing to a Pro Bowl caliber wide receiver in TJ Hawkinson, who was a top 10 pick a couple of years ago. Terrell Williams is a solid option at wide receiver. You also have Brashard Perriman, who I think is pretty decent. You know, I'm not all that high on him, but you got a Marseille Brown. Like, this Lions passing game is going to be decent, and it's going to be even better with the fact that Jared Goff is going to have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. I'm so tired of you new age football fans making everything about wide receiver. Let me ask you a question. Which one do you think equals more wins? An elite group of wide receivers or having an elite offensive line? If I were to ask you right now to pick between which one would you prefer, you have a chance to build your team. What would you start your team off with? An elite group of wide receivers or an elite offensive line? Well, if you're smart, I think the average football fan would know that you need to have an elite offensive line to win. Well, let me take that back. It seems like not even the average football fan realizes that the game is won and lost in the trenches. It really pees me off how people just like to look at teams and they just go straight to the wide receiver position. They go straight to corner and they just skip over the offensive line. They skip over the defensive line. And it really pees me off because a lot of you guys don't pay attention to the game of football. You're just so caught up in this social media hype. Social media makes everything about wide receivers. A lot of you guys keep saying, well, JT, the game has changed. The game hasn't changed all that much. 30 decades ago, you still had to be able to win up front, and 40 years later, you still have to win up front if you want to win. You can go to the playoffs with a bad group of wide receivers and a lead offensive line. I've never seen the team ever that had a top 10 offensive line and a top 15 pass rush have the worst record in the NFL. I've never seen it. And somebody let me know down in the comment section down below if I'm tripping, if there has ever been a team that had a great offensive line and still missed the playoffs with a great pass rush. But I strongly doubt that. I really cannot see the Detroit Lions being one of the worst teams in the NFL. You got a new head coach and Dan Campbell, and we can speculate, but everybody is speculating that Dan Campbell is going to be a better coach than Matt Patricia. Now, of course, we won't know that until the season kicks off, but I don't think it could be that hard to be better than what Matt Patricia was. Matt Patricia wasn't a great coach. He may be one of the worst head coaches in NFL history. That's how bad of a coach Matt Patricia was. So I know a lot of people are going to say, well, JT, you don't know how good of a coach Dan Campbell is because he hasn't coached a game. But I'm pretty sure we can speculate that you can't get no worse than Matt Patricia. But maybe I'm wrong. But I strongly doubt that the Lions coaching staff will be any worse than anything that Matt Patricia put on the field. Also, you got to look. That defense should be way more improved than what it was under Matt Patricia. Davante Adams came out and said publicly that Detroit ran pretty much the same system. They didn't change any of their looks defensively. So when you look at Detroit, yeah, they have a couple of question marks on defense. I don't like their linebackers, and I have questions about their secondary, in particular the safety position. But I do believe that with how good the defensive line is for Detroit, they're going to help that defense out a lot, because when you're able to get pressure on a quarterback, you give your corners less time that they have to stay in coverage. You also help out your linebackers as well, because all you really need to do is for your linebackers to play mop-up duty pretty much. So with how good Detroit is in the trenches, I strongly believe that the Lions will not be one of the worst teams in the NFL. I believe that this team will be competitive. I don't think they'll make it to the playoffs. At least not this year, but I do believe that they can win anywhere between 6, 8, or 9 games. I can't really give you guys a record prediction right now because I saved my record predictions for July, but I do believe that Detroit is going to be a better football team than what a lot of you guys are expecting. The mainstream media is so wrong about a lot of teams. Like, I strongly doubt that a lot of you guys watching this video, unless you are a Detroit Lions fan, watched any Detroit Lions football games unless they were playing your favorite NFL team. Other than that, I strongly doubt a lot of you guys watched the Detroit Lions last year. So if a lot of you guys, unless you're a Lions fan, barely watched the Lions play last year, what makes you think that the people that get paid millions of dollars to talk about this are wasting any time watching the Detroit Lions play if guys like me aren't watching a lot of Lions games? So there's no way you can make me believe that if you're not watching Lions games, that people in the national media are watching a lot of Lions games. So let me tell you guys something. I strongly guarantee, and I'm willing to put money down on this, that the Detroit Lions will win more than 6 games this year. They will win 6 games or more. I am willing to bet $500 right now that the Detroit Lions will not have a top 3 pick in next year's 2022 NFL draft. I believe that this team is going to be way more better than what a lot of you guys are giving it credit for, saying that they don't have no weapons. Swift was one of the best rookie running backs in the NFL last year. TJ Hawkinson was a Pro Bowler at tight end last year. The wide receiving core may not be that great, but you do have weapons that Jared Goff can throw the football to. Like, a lot of people are going to say, well, JT, Jared Goff's not a franchise quarterback. Okay, who cares? He has a good offensive line. He has some weapons to throw the football to. If you have a top 10 offensive line, it's pretty much doggone near impossible for you to be trash at quarterback. There's no way Jared Goff will at least can't be average behind that offensive line. You got to be Jamarcus Russell to be awful. I don't think Jared Goff is going to be that bad. I don't think Jared Goff is that bad at all. His problem was that he's inconsistent. You don't know what you're going to get out of Jared Goff on a week-to-week basis. But I strongly believe that Jared Goff can have an average season or be solid for the Detroit Lions as long as he's playing behind that offensive line, which is a top 10 unit in the NFL. I'm so tired of you guys making everything about the skill position players, and nobody realizes that football is a game that is won and lost in the trenches, and it really blows my mind, and it really irritates me when I go back and forth with some of you guys, because a lot of you guys say, well, who's the receivers? Okay, do you know they have a top 10 offensive line? Do you know that TJ Hawkinson was a Pro Bowler? Let me get off this, man. Before I get even more irritated, make sure that you guys like the video, comment, subscribe for more NFL videos and content, and thanks for watching.